Friends, this is Dinesh Panchal from Navrachana University. We welcome all of you for this webinar on impact of COVID-19 on supply chain. Today our speaker is Mr. Firdos Solanki, Assistant Professor at School of Business and Law, Navrachana University. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dinesh sir. I'll quickly walk you through the agenda of today's session. It's an impact on supply chain management. We'll first take impact of COVID-19 on global economy, and then I'll walk you through impact specifically on supply chain management and why the impact is on supply chain management and how it is going to impact other sectors also. So we'll take a quick snapshot of different sectors of Indian economy, and then we'll decide which all functions will be affected more in supply chain management. And in the end, what are the options available for industry in the short term and long term, and how after COVID-19, how the supply chain management is going to change. So what will be the future for supply chain management, considering this is very, very big impact. So I'll just share my screen. I hope you all are able to see my
yes, sir.
Desktop. Yeah. One second. Yeah. So COVID-19 impact on global economy, what experts are saying. So first of all, if you take snapshot of IMF is saying that world output, so world GDP is going to be reduced by 3%. All the advanced economy are going to register negative growth. In the emerging economy also, except India and China, every economy is going to register negative growth. Good thing is for India and China, we have a strong base of demand. So India is going to register close to 1.9, 1.8% GDP growth, and China close to 1.2%. If you take the snippet of World Trade Organization, they are saying, considering 2008 crisis, this crisis will be very bad and very long. So optimistic scenario says, the green is optimistic scenario, considering 2015 sale, which is 100%. Optimistic scenario says we can see 13% reduction in the world trade volume and quick recovery around 2020-21. Pessimistic scenario says that will be decrease of 32% in the entire world trade volume. And we can see very slow recovery, which goes into 2020-22 also. So in a way, it's a very big dip in the trade volume. Now, before we go into supply chain and how the supply chain is going to be affected, I would like to take you through the basics of supply chain just quickly. We'll take example of braid manufacturing, which falls into essential items. So you all must be buying right now. Supply chain starts from end to end. So we call it from supplier to end retailers. So here, if I just start, yeah. So supply chain starts from end to end, as I said. And it starts from agriculture sector. So from farm, I'll buy wheat. So that's called inbound. From there, I'll source my grain, and then I'll convert into flour in the mills. Then I'll convert into bread, and then bread will be packed and ship it to retail stores. Buying the grain and converting into flour is called inbound transport, which is called supplier to production site. That's called inbound transport. Transferring flour to your oven and baking facility is called IUTM, inter-unit transfer. And then finished good, which is bread, transferring it to retail store to customer is called outbound transport. Now, one thing you critically remember is that farmer are dependent on their supplier also. So farmer is buying pesticides, farmer is buying fungicide, they are buying fertilizer. They are called tier 2 supplier and tier 3 supplier. Now, this tier 2 and tier 3 supplier will be very critical for our supply chain shock. We'll take that into detail in the upcoming slides. As of now, you understand that from supplier to production is inbound. Within the production facilities, inter-unit transfer, and from production facility to customer is outbound. Now, in the past, we have seen number of disasters. So SARS 2003, tsunami 2004, global financial crisis 2008, and Thai flood in 2011. How it is different, how COVID-19 is different from them, and why we are talking about supply chain impact, why we have not talked previously and why we are talking now. Because number one, the Impact of COVID-19 is far-fetched because in the other crisis, it was regional supply and regional demand gap, whereas in terms of COVID-19 is a global supply and global demand crisis. Within a very short time, almost entire world is suffering from the supply and demand crisis. Under lockdown, under mobility issues, transportation is not possible, raw material is not available. So because of lockdown and restricted movement, we are seeing global supply and demand crisis, which was not previously happened. Second, when we say it happened in China, the economy is higher than ever integrated in global trade. Just to take an example of SARS 2003. In 2003, China real GDP was at 10% and world was at 4.3%. Again, in 2003, China's contribution was just 4.2% in world GDP, whereas as of now, it's a 16.3% in the world GDP. Again, very important thing to remember is during the 2003 time, China was just contributing into lower end products. So it was textile, toys, plastic, and lower end products. Whereas right now, China is into high end and high tech products. So you can talk about printed circuit boards, electronic circuits, automotive components, pharmaceutical ingredients, which are high tech. And China is actually exporting that. That's why impact in China will be felt across the world. Third, why we are talking about right now, because effectively the pandemic comes at very vulnerable point in global cycle. Because of US and China trade war, economy was already suffering. Because of Iran and US standoff, economy was already suffering. There was global stagnation across number of countries. World output was just 2.9% in 2019. 2.5% we call it recession. So it was just above, barely above recession. And at that time, very weak point that pandemic started. And that's why we are struggling a lot. Now, we have seen how. We are trying to see why. Impact of COVID-19 on supply chain, why it's going to be impacted. So first is supplier. When we talk about supply chain, I told you it start from supplier, then manufacturing facility, then logistic, then customer. So how suppliers are getting impacted? So suppliers had a quarantine and trade restriction. So many factories are closed because they are quarantined. They are facing distribution challenges. Take an example of Swiggy and Zomato. As simple as hyper-local deliveries are also not possible. So when we talk about cross-country delivery or within the country delivery where boundaries are state boundary you need to cross, it's nearly impossible during this time. Again, I told you about farmers, and I told you about pesticide and their ingredients, fertilizers, which are called tier 2 and tier 3 level suppliers. They are the small suppliers. So they are not able to survive because they have a working capital requirement day by day. And because of this 1 month, 1.5 month close down, they may not be able to survive. Fourth is we have a longer and unreliable lead time. So people are not sure when they are going to get their product, and we have an unreliable lead time from supplier side. Next, we talk about manufacturing. So we have again same quarantine factories. So factories are not working, plants are shut down, raw material is not available, manpower is not available, people are working from home. But then all the industry cannot work from home. When we talk about service industry required face-to-face transaction. When we talk about manufacturing industry, plant need to be operated by the manpower. So raw material and lack of manpower is shutting down the manufacturing facility completely. When we talk about logistics, so we have a travel restriction. Biggest impact is on logistics. So airports are closed down, roads are not available, ports are closed down. Again, when airports are available or ports are available, we are seeing longer lead time for screening and clearing. So take an example, if ship was taking 8 hours time to clear from China, now they are taking close to 1 or 2 days, which is locking them. And then shortage of manpower for logistic also. When we talk about sales, which is customer facing function, so demand is shifting away to online. Customer is buying in panic purchase, so causing inventory stock out. If you go to DMart today or if you go to retail market today, you will find basic essential items are not available because people are purchasing in panic. This is very much available in US. This is very much available in India initially during lockdown, whereas essential items are not available because of panic purchase and hoarding mentality. And then people are prioritizing purchase of essentials. They are rationalizing that what is essentially required, we only buy that, because cash crunch is also available with many individuals. And then last is people. So labor shortage and unemployment is going to work out. Work from home is not suitable for all industry. And then reduction of overall productivity. So people are saying that work from home is possible, but then we are not accustomed with work from home mentality. So our homes and our facilities are not accustomed with work from home. So productivity is in a way going to be affected when people work from home. The major problem, if you have learned the supply chain management, you must have heard about bullwhip effect, which is creating much more pain in the supply chain right now. Is imagine sales at, so it start in the reverse direction. It start from customer and goes up in the supply chain. It's called bullwhip effect. Take an example of bread manufacturing company. We'll take a scenario of bread manufacturer. So suddenly you have stopped buying bread because of, let's say, COVID-19. You don't want to buy bread, and so there is a dip in the bread purchase. A sales guy will see that, and sales guy will say, I have few inventory and I have already pipeline inventory. Some inventory is also going to come in the pipeline, so they will cut down on their order. So let's say dip is just 5% in bread consumption. Retail guy will tell to warehouse that I want 10% cut in my order. So 5% to 10% in logistic warehouse. Wholesaler will say, if I'm saying 10% cut, I also have a safety stock, I also have an inventory, I also have a pipeline inventory, so I will cut it to 15%. So he will say, distributor, I want 15% cut in the next order. Distributor will say, manufacturer, similarly, I want 20% cut, and then manufacturer will say to supplier that I want further and further cut. So a small impact on customer sides get amplified again and again to the supplier side. That's called bullwhip effect. Now, who will face most difficulty out of this bullwhip effect? So I told you tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 supply. Farmer will not have purchase. Farmer will not say buying from company side. So let's say you have a grain available, you have a wheat available, but you will see companies not buying. Farmer will not be able to pay amount for fertilizer. Farmer will not be able to pay amount for pesticide, and you will see a dip into those industry. So tier 2, tier 1 supplier will suffer, and then impact will be again on manufacturing, then logistic, and then sales. So it will impact across entire value chain. I hope you understood this. Now, what are the most affected supply chain functions out of this? So I would say, if you have heard about supply chain operation reference model, that distributes supply chain into 6 core functions: plan, source, make, deliver, return, and enable. So planning is you plan for the supply chain. Source is procurement of material. Make is you actually manufacture. Deliver is logistic part. Return is if anything comes return. And then enable is how to make this entire supply chain working. So what are the most affected supply chain functions when we talk about plan, source, make, deliver, return, and enable? Let's talk about plan. Under planning comes forecasting, sales and operation planning, and inventory management. Now, biggest affected function of supply chain will be forecasting and S&OP planning, because forecasting depends on historical data. Now, this kind of event is one of a kind. People call it black swan event. So this has not happened in the past. Very, very unique event. So there is no data available to forecast. So people are struggling to how to actually decide which product to manufacture, which product to decide under S&OP planning, which product mix, what kind of product people are going to buy, what is the essential item consumer will say they are going to buy. It's not very clear. And because of that, S&OP planning is also suffering. S&OP planning is your week on week or month on month actual production schedule. If you are not able to forecast actually, S&OP planning will also doesn't work. Again, inventory management is also at a very big problem, because you don't know where to put inventory. You are not sure which customer will buy what kind of product with which locality from which kind of retail store. So inventory management is again very, very big trouble. Next is source. You are not available, you are not sure which supplier to negotiate. So supplier negotiation is also a big problem. Procurement itself is a big problem because plants are not working. If you want to procure, logistic will not be available. If you want to procure, I told you it's an unrealistic lead time. Lead times are not reliable. There will be quality issue. There will be payment issue, because now your supplier will say, I require money immediately, because their working capital is hampered. They are not sure that whether you will pay on time or not, whether your business will survive or not. So payment will be very, very critical. When we say manufacturing, scheduling will be problem, because you will not have manpower. You don't know what to manufacture. Your capacity management will be problem because you have excess capacity, and then that capacity is not going to be in use. So whether to shut down the plant, whether to make it operate at 20-30% capacity, which plant to operate, that would be your challenge. Quality control is a bigger challenge because whatever you are manufacturing now, efficiency of the manpower will be affected, efficiency of the machine will be impacted. How will you control the quality? That would be a trouble. And then dispatching from the warehouse, dispatching from the factory will be a big trouble. When we talk about delivery, transportation itself is a big trouble because trucks are not available, vehicles are not available, railway is not working at full capacity, ports are not operating. Again, warehousing will be a big trouble because warehousing are closed, manpower is not available. Now, India has a very big trouble with warehousing because our warehousing are normally manual warehouse. We have either complete manual warehouse or slightly mechanical warehouse. It's not like China, it's not like US where you have automated warehouse, which can work at very, very low manpower capacity. So if manpower is not available, warehouse will not be functional in India. And then invoice and payment is again a problem because if you deliver the goods to customer, you will not get payment immediately from the customer. So days sales outstanding will be trouble, days payable outstanding will be trouble, and your plan doesn't work. Imagine you are into a company where you don't know what to manufacture, from where you will procure the product, how will you manufacture, and whom to deliver and how to deliver. Everything is at trouble. That's called most affected supply chain function right now. Now, what can ease your problem is visibility. So if you have visibility through superior IT and superior traceability, that regarding forecasting, regarding procurement, regarding manufacturing facility and delivery, then you can survive in this scenario. We'll take sectors which are mostly affected by COVID-19. You can guess travel and tourism will be affected more because airline, hotel, transportation industry are not going to work immediately, and mobility platforms see decline up to 30%. So airline, hotel, transportation industry, recreation, vacation, they are all going to be affected. So Disney theme park would be affected because people are not going to footfall into Disney theme park. You will see transportation. So countries entirely dependent on tourism, they will be affected more. Airline, hotel, transportation will be affected. Travel and tourism, short, immediately. Consumer discretionary. Now, what is discretionary? So discretionary is kind of a good which are not essential but desirable. So consumer, if consumer has excess income, they would like to buy. Now that will be affected because decline will be in footfall of malls, multiplex, restaurant. People will not go to malls. So buying of, let's say, apparel, buying of luxury goods, buying of food, multiplex will be affected. So consumer discretionary will be immediately affected industry. Auto industry will be affected because auto industry almost 27% components are imported from China. So first they have a supply problem, and now they will have a demand problem in passenger and commercial vehicle. There will be short supply of parts from China also. Manpower will not be available. Their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers also will be affected. So auto industry will be affected again very severely. Pharma industry, short-term supply issue because you must be knowing that 70 to 80% active pharmaceutical ingredient, we call it API, raw material, is imported from China. So pharma industry short-term affected. They had issue of paracetamol shortage, but then overall there will be positive impact because of essential medicine demand will be up. Infrastructure, we can say infrastructure will be affected severely because there will be postponement of large capex project, funding constraint from banks and NBFC. You will not get funding from World Bank also. You will not get funding from, you can say the bullet train project may get delayed because you may not get funding from Japan because they are struggling with their own economical issues. So infrastructure related project will be definitely going to be affected. Energy and utility, these are dependent on the industry outcome. You must be knowing that as of now, power consumption is just 50 to 40% because industry is not at all working. So obviously when industry is not operating and demand is not there, slowdown due to reduction in overall economic activities. Petroleum, you have seen that petrol price, crude oil going to negative. So people are actually paying you to buy the crude oil at some point of time due to demand decline. Why petroleum? Because mobility is not there. 30 to 40% decline in mobility. Because of that, demand decline, and then overall decline for the petroleum demand. Now, this will be positive for downstream companies. Downstream in a way that which are converting crude oil and into petrol and related products. It will be positive for them, because for them, cost of raw material will be very less and they would get a higher margin. Consumer durables, which is electronic products, TV, refrigerator, washing machine, you will see slowdown in that due to economic disruption. People will not have higher disposable income. They will buy only quite essential items. So again, it will be disrupted. Also, 67% of components we are sourcing from China, and 45% completely built goods we are sourcing from China. So again, sourcing issue also will be from China. That will be impacted more. Now, what will be immediate action for supply chain uncertainties? We have seen how it's going to be impacted. We want to see what is in it for supply chain managers. How should they react to this problem? So one thing is plan. Just to give you example from my personal experience, when I was into Flipkart as a supply chain, as a senior manager quality control tower, we had a quality control tower. So in every company, they have a cross-functional control tower you need to create. Control tower means one-stop shop. Your every decision and all the decision-related stakeholders will be under same room or virtual platform, and then rapid action kind of scenario will be take place. So decision will be very quick. In this kind of pandemic scenario, you can't delay your decision because that will hamper your entire supply chain. So you require control tower, cross-functional control tower, rapid action war room. Second, sourcing, you need to have a supplier support system. What I'm saying is you should have a business continuity plan for your suppliers. So let's take an example again from bread manufacturing firm. Bread manufacturing firm is entirely dependent on their agriculture farmers. So when this kind of pandemic happens and when farmers are not able to sustain, being a major party in the entire supply chain or owner of the supply chain, they should make sure that farmers survives. So they need to provide financial support and business continuity plan for farmers. If required, they need to give loans also, soft loans or financial support for the suppliers. Third, so they need to do capacity rationalization. Their production line should be able to flexibly change their schedule. They need to change the product mix. Again, if I take the example of bakery, let's say during the sunny days, you are producing bakery of brown bread, also you are producing white bread, you are producing toast, you are producing different biscuits also. Now you have realized that demand is only for
Sorry, your voice is not coming. Firdos, sir, your voice is not getting transmitted. Friends, just hold on for a couple of minutes. I'll just ensure that the connection is re-established.
Yeah, apologies guys, there was some issue with the connection.
So you can share the screen once again.
Yeah, yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So we have seen till example of industry and then how they are going to impact it. So I told you about source and I told you about making, in make part, how capacity would be rationalized. As I was telling you, example of bread again, if it is super bread and they are in the normal days, they are manufacturing white bread also, they are manufacturing brown bread also, they are manufacturing toast, they are manufacturing rusk. Now they need to just focus on white bread because that's the product customers are entirely buying. They may not buy other products, so your production line should be flexible enough that it can change the entire demand and entire production capacity to just producing white bread. If you can do it, then you will be able to survive in this uncertain time. If you can't do it, then you will suffer. Now, delivery. So there should be mode rationalization. So assigning transport mode based on criticality of goods, demand, and customer profile. What I'm saying is, let's say you are normally transporting through truck, but then as of now trucks are not available. So you should be able to use flexible transport modes if need be. Railway also should be explored if need be. Interstate water network also should be explored. So different mode which are available for transportation should be explored based on criticality of goods and customer profile. And then last is consume. So you should have a consumer support system also, communicate, open communication with the consumer regarding what actions you are taking to make sure that your food is not contaminated. If you take example of, good example is Domino's. So if you take Domino's app right now, they are clear cut communicating that while making pizza, our employees are zero contact with the product. So that's how you open communicate. Tell customer that your product is not impacted because of this coronavirus. Now, what will be for employee internal source? So employee protection should be your utmost priority. Your shift plan should be on place. Physical and psychological support channels should be available. Shift inventory throughout the chain dynamically. And most importantly, in this time, cash is king. So cash to cash cycle should be managed properly and liquidity management should be very strong. So when I say you deliver or while make or my source, while sourcing from supplier, while making, while delivering, do not hamper your cash to cash cycle or completely manage your liquidity. If you hamper that, then immediately your business will suffer and you will be out of working capital. Again, when you are in touch with customer, always make sure that how their demand is changing. I'll give you a very good example of this. In France, one company who make perfume, they are currently manufacturing sanitizers. In Italy, one company who makes automotive company, they are manufacturing right now ventilators. Mahindra also has started and tie up to manufacture ventilator. So identify new source and changing demand patterns and quickly adapt. If you have read today's newspaper, Mahindra said that Mahindra has started selling car online. So you can book car online and they will be able to deliver. So when people are going online, your business and your delivery mode should be able to dynamically adapt that. So quickly adapt. That's the only solution available. And it goes without saying that to do all this, you require superior IT, you require data analytics platform. It's very much required to capture this need. Now, before we go into last topic, that is for supply chain resilience, I just want to explain quickly what is supply chain resilience and how industry can do that. So supply chain resilience means first is resistance. The pandemic or the risk should not impact at all to you. And if at all that impacts, you should be very quickly able to recover. So first of all, resistance, avoid it or contain it. And if you can't able to do that, then stabilize and recover and return to the original state as early as possible. How companies can do that? So first is, if you are planning in supplier network, you need to ask this question to your team that how predictable is demand planning? How complex and concentrated is your supply network? So when many companies in Japan and US are now questioning that our supply network is very concentrated in China, we need to shift it from China so that if something happens again, this kind of thing happens again, we should be able to protect ourselves and our entire supply chain should not be affected. And then how exposed is the network for trade disruption? Second, when you say transportation and logistics, so how resilient is the physical flow and the logistic work? How quickly you are able to track and how accurate your data and how visibility in your supply chain. When you say financial resiliency, how much financial flexibility does the company have to absorb and increase supply chain cost? So when I say Apple has a very, very high amount of financial resiliency. They have close to $100 billion cash reserve. So if something goes wrong, let's say for next 5 to 10 years, they will be able to survive COVID-19 very easily because they don't have any financial issues. So you need to also check financial resiliency, whether you are running on very, very thin rope or you have a very, very good financial flexibility to support your supplier and if required to support your customer also. When I say support your supplier, I'm saying that your days payable outstanding timeline should be higher. Tell your supplier that you can pay me after 6 months. That's fine. If supplier requires cash crunch, you can also provide soft loans to supplier. If your customer say, I'm not able to pay immediately, I'll pay after 3 4 months, that's fine, because your financial resiliency helps you to do that. And that's how your customer and your supplier becomes your loyal. Now, if product complexity, so you need to ask, are the components in the product substitutable? How flexible is the design? Let me give you one example of this. If I take example of, let's say, Parle-G biscuit, let's take an example of Parle-G biscuit. Parle-G biscuit, if I say, let's say grain. So if X variety of grain is not available, Parle-G biscuit is made from wheat. Let's say wheat from Madhya Pradesh is not available. They normally manufacture from wheat from Madhya Pradesh, let's assume. So wheat from Madhya Pradesh is not available. Can we make Parle-G biscuit same kind of biscuit with very little quality difference from Punjab, wheat from Punjab, or wheat from, let's say, Gujarat? If they can do it, then their product complexity is very, very manageable. Also, if they can directly, quickly change the box size. So let's say Parle-G biscuit package is not available. Let's say plastic, there is an issue. They are not able to get the proper label. So can they change the Parle-G biscuit packaging immediately? And can they send it into cardboard box without hampering the quality of the biscuit, without hampering the safety of the product? Can they do it? So in that case, their product complexity is very, very manageable. People who can do that currently in the supply chain are very, very safe because their product is easily substitutable. Their design is flexible. They can manufacture with whatever component available in the local market also. And then how mature is the organization? So this depends on maturity of the organization entirely. Your organization should be not reactive, but the proactive. These are the keywords. Remember this. These are the topics which you need to go into much depth when you talk about supply chain resilience and recovery. I'll just walk you through quickly. DDMRP is one of the key word you will hear right now in the supply chain domain, called demand-driven material requirement planning. It's a pool-based material requirement planning. It says position, protect, and pool-based material requirement planning. So inventory which is required at point, only position there. Quickly change the inventory profile, and pool-based inventory should be manufactured. That's called DDMRP. CPFR is again a very big word, collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment. You will heard this very often now. It says that forecasting and replenishment should be collaborative and with the help of all the key partners in the supply chain. So retailer, distributor, supermarket chain, wholesaler, your suppliers, everyone should be involved, and forecasting and replenishment should be collaborative. Analytics will be again a big topic. We are going to take one more session on supply chain analytics, how it's going to help in this pandemic scenario. You should have a simulation model. So when I say manage the product complexity and when I say manage the capacity, it based on simulation model. So Parle-G need to decide whether they want to change their entire production facility to manufacture lower end Parle-G glucose biscuit, or they should make higher end biscuit. So they manufacture biscuit for let's say upper middle class. They manufacture for lower product also. So how will they change the mix? That will be based on simulation model, based on profit, based on demand. And then automation should be very, very high level available. Last topic, what kind of key themes you should be able to see in the supply chain. So these are the few topics which will be very much available. Now, you must have heard the word about industry 4.0, supply chain 4.0, and logistic 4.0. Going forward, these three words, because of this pandemic, these three words will be very, very acceptable in the industry right now, which is advanced analytics, smart autonomous transport. So you must have heard that Apple is trying, and Uber is also experimenting with this autonomous transport. Even FedEx and DHL are experimenting with this autonomous transport. It's going to be further acceptable and further ready because industry is suffering with manual loss. Now, digital value stream and IoT, Internet of Things, you must have heard about it. Flexible automation assembly line. In this keyword, you should be aware about lights out manufacturing. So FADUC in Japan is completely lights out manufacturing. When I say lights out manufacturing, it's same as the word indicates. If you switch off the lights, your factory should be running. That means there will be very little manpower on the factory shop. So it's completely by robots. So if your factory is completely running by robots, and if you have a raw material available, pandemic may not be able to affect you because your factory will get easily permission to operate because there is no manpower involved. And then you should be able to fulfill your inventory and customer requirement easily. Again, AR and VR training and tools will be very much available. Augmented reality, virtual reality, because with augmented reality and virtual reality, people will be able to operate machine from their home. So work from home will work seamlessly if you have AR, VR and light out manufacturing kind of scenarios. Then cloud-based connected machine will be available because your factories are across the globe. And then 3D printing, you must have heard about 3D printing right now. 3D printing is a keyword currently going on in this pandemic in the supply chain domain, where parts which are not easily available, people are using it to 3D printing. So let's say 3D printing mask, 3D printing injection, 3D printing kits, 3D printing automotive parts. People are doing it because they are aware that parts are not going to be coming soon. So they can just put the design and print the part easily. And then autonomous process optimization, where process decide itself which part to manufacture based on demand. This all fall into industry 4.0 and supply chain 4.0, which will cater the need of rapid tailoring of manufacturing and supply chain to consumer behavior. So as and when consumer behavior changes, your supply chain will be able to manufacture that. We also call it agile manufacturing and supply chain system enabled by technology. And this all requires seamless collaboration based on dynamic decision making. So when I say industry 4.0 and supply chain 4.0, imagine a scenario. We'll take again the bread manufacturing firm. Let's say they have a light out manufacturing firm. They have autonomous process optimization. They have a AR, VR training tools, and they have a smart autonomous transport. So based on the changing pattern of consumer has stopped buying all the other product. Consumer is just buying bread, white bread. And they have realized that through their CPFR, collaborative planning, forecasting and replenishment. CPFR will say that only manufacture white bread. Now white bread has a 3 SKUs, small size, big size and medium size. CPFR will again say just manufacture big size because people are just going outside once in 3 days, once in a week. So they are buying bigger SKUs. So CPFR will tell lights out manufacturing firm that just manufacture big size bread. Autonomous process optimization will convert machine into manufacturing big size bread. Your lights out manufacturing and AR VR. Through AR VR, employees are sitting at home, but they will be able to control the machines through AR and VR. Your smart and autonomous transport will make sure that they go into warehouse of farmer, collect the wheat, bring it to the flexible automation assembly line. Lights out manufacturing will make sure through robotics that breads are manufactured, pick and pack properly. And then autonomous process optimization and again smart transport will make sure that they deliver the bread to the end retailer seamlessly. So that's the seamless collaboration and dynamic decision making for value chain optimization. Moving from product mix to the single product which is selling right now in the market, that's called industry 4.0 and supply chain 4.0 and logistic 4.0. So going forward in future, you will see that kind of manufacturing happening because industry has learned the lesson from this pandemic. Now they know it's not very good to completely dependent on manpower because your system should be autonomous and taking the decision on their own based on data very quickly. That's all from my side. We can take questions now. If you have questions, just let me know.
Friends, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Either myself or Firdos sir will unmute you, your microphone, and then you can ask a question. Sir, one small question from my side. I don't know, like, that's a right question or wrong question, but sometime back, like, we were thinking that many companies follow trusted suppliers. So lesser the number of supplier, better it is, and trusted one.
Right. Right.
But now, in such kind of disturbances, if I say the risk mitigation, more the number of sources, better it is. So that if one of the source gets stuck up, you can source from some other. So it's like
switch to other.
yeah, it's like two like contradictions. On one side, we feel that from the long-term supplier point of view, lesser the number of supplier, better it is. But from the disturbance point of risk mitigations, higher the number of suppliers. So can you throw some light on this? How to handle this trade-off?
Yeah. So currently, the answer to that is currently when we say classification, the inventory classification, we say VD classification, vital, essential, desirable. So products which are very, very vital to your organization, you normally do not get dependent on single supplier. You normally distribute between 2 or 3 suppliers, so that if one hampers, goes wrong with the one supplier, your business continue. Now you will find more and more product falling into this vital kind of category, and you will see number of players going into that. Again, when we talk about supply chain resiliency say that you should have redundancy in your supply chain. So many of the firms like KPMG, McKinsey has told number of manufacturers right now that you should have supplier already, supplier classification and supplier onboarding should be in place. You may not buy from them. So let's say, as I was giving you example of Super Braid, they already have in place contact with Punjab. So Punjab, if someone is supplying wheat, so from Punjab and from Gujarat, they already have a contact details. They already had the red contract already in place, negotiation already happened, supplier onboarding is already available. They just don't, they are just not buying from there. So let's say if something goes wrong from Madhya Pradesh wheat supplier, this information should quickly pass on to the supply chain through the IT, and then they immediately switch over to Punjab and supplier from Gujarat. So that's what companies are doing right now. Have a backup supplier. You may not buy from it, but then you should have a backup plan. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question, guys? Else we'll conclude.
Friends, any other questions? So from your side, please, you can raise your hand.
Shashank, yeah.
Go ahead, Shashank.
Shashank, yeah.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I want to ask that during the time of this coronavirus, is it a greater opportunity for all the industries that some of them or majority of them can move to the industry 4.0?
Yeah, definitely. But एक प्रॉब्लम क्या आता है उसमें कि इंडस्ट्री 4.0 आइसोलेशन में नहीं होता है. सो 4.0 करने के लिए तुम्हारे पास रोबोटिक्स होना चाहिए, तुम्हारे पास आईटी सिस्टम अच्छा होना चाहिए, ताकि सप्लाई चेन में सिर्फ तुमने 4.0 कर लिया लेकिन तुम्हारे सप्लायर ने नहीं किया, तो अगेन सप्लाई चेन का रूल ये है कि जो वीकेस्ट लिंक रहेगा सप्लाई चेन का उतना ही तुम्हारा स्ट्रेंथ रहेगा. सो इन एंटायर योर सप्लाई चेन एवरीवन शुड बी एबल टू फॉलो दैट प्रैक्टिस. ये किस किस इंडस्ट्री में हुआ है? तो ये ऑटोमोटिव इंडस्ट्री में कुछ जगह पे हुआ है, जैसे जर्मनी में हुआ है. जर्मनी में BMW या फॉक्सवैगन के प्लांट है, उनमें कुछ जगह पे इंडस्ट्री 4.0 हुआ है. जापान में फानुक का मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा था, वेयर रोबोट्स मैन्युफैक्चर रोबोट्स. फानुक इज अ रोबोट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फर्म. सो रोबोट्स ही रोबोट्स को बनाता है, एंड दैट्स अ कंप्लीटली लाइट्स आउट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फर्म. बट ये उस इंडस्ट्री में पॉसिबल है जहां पे इंडस्ट्री मैच्योर स्टेज में है. सो यू विल सी, अभी तक कोई वो आइडिया को ध्यान में ही नहीं ले रहा था कि भाई हमारे लिए है ही नहीं. आफ्टर दिस यू विल फाइंड मेनी पीपल आर डिस्कसिंग दिस, एटलीस्ट डिस्कस करना स्टार्ट करेंगे, और उनमें से 20-30% इंडस्ट्री 4.0 की डायरेक्शन में जाएंगे भी. सो ऑटोमेशन विल बी वेरी वेरी बिग. इमीडिएटली वेयरहाउसिंग में बहुत ज्यादा होगा. वेयरहाउसिंग में यू विल फाइंड ऑटोमेशन बहुत ज्यादा होने वाला गोइंग फॉरवर्ड. या एनी अदर गाइस?
Okay, if you don't have any questions, then sir, we can. Okay, just a minute. No. Then we can close the session, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for a very informative session. And friends, we are going to upload the recording of this session onto the YouTube so that you can share with your friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.